Hi there. I'm Alex.
I'm Jim.
Welcome back to the Old Warlock.
Welcome.
You guys may have seen a video recently where we talked about the Wilderness Survival Guide as one of perhaps our least favorite books in the Dungeons & Dragons, the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons
D&D
First Edition canon.
Yes.
Because really we couldn't find many things that were useful in it that we would have necessarily used in our campaign.
But that's not to say that other people wouldn't have.
No, because there are a lot of you who really
didn't.
seem to enjoy that book, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But in our personal opinion, it is not our favorite. But one of the companion books to that that's very, very similar is something that we like quite a bit, and that is the Dungeoneer Survival Guide. Isn't that right?
It is, right.
This is very similar to the Wilderness Survival Guide, in that it's titled very similarly, but it's just got a little bit different of a focus, whereas the Wilderness Survival Guide focuses on the wilderness, outdoors, going across country, forests, tundras, deserts, all that good stuff. This focuses on the more underground aspect of things, going through dungeons, caves, subterranean environments, whatever it may be. And there's actually a lot of really cool stuff in this book that they've, at the very least, can inspire you to kind of build off of and create some of your own ideas from. So
it's inspiring.
So really, we just wanted to go through some of this and talk to you guys about some of our favorite parts of the Dungeoneer's Survival Guide. Let's get started.
Yes, let's. So, the Dungeoneer Survival Guide. This was, I think the editor of this, might have been the guy who wrote the whole thing, I don't know, was Douglas Niles. This came out in 1986.
Good work, Douglas.
He did really a nice job. He and Mr. Niles and whomever else may have been involved with this. In fact, let's look over here. No, it looks like he may have written the entire thing.
I think he did.
Somebody else did the illustrations. But regardless, I think that he did an excellent job in this.
He did.
Now it covers a wide variety of things. When they talk about the Dungeoneer Survival Guide, what is it? They talk about the mystery of the Underdark. So it's a lot of everything from dungeons all the way down to large cavernous kingdoms.
And that's the term they use for a lot of this, is the Underdark, which I quite like. I do like that, yes. But as you go through it, they kind of start off with natural underground locales, and one of my favorite things is that they actually describe the different types of natural materials that you will find caves in. Which is helpful because I actually didn't know this. Not being a spelunker, I wasn't aware of some of these
No,
things.
and I've been in a number of caves in my day, but I am not a spelunker either because I think that those people can be crazy.
If you've ever seen the movie As Above, So Below.
But he gives a real good description of how caves are formed, and also the kinds of formations you will find in caves, and they also give illustrations. And we will throw these up on the screen. Let's not just show here. I will just throw them up on the screen because I have digitized this.
Pow!
To do just that.
There it is.
There it is, cave formations. So as a DM, as you're describing caves, this is going to be something that's going to help you to describe things.
Especially if you've never been in a cave.
Right, or you have limited experience.
Cave experience, yes.
Another great thing to me was this, essentially is a cross-section of a continuous cave system. I thought this was excellent, again, for those of us who do not know a great deal about underground geology. I think that this is excellent. We'll throw this up on the screen as well.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff in there. Again, we didn't necessarily like the Wilderness Survival Guide going through all these different types of environments where they went through tundras, deserts, marshes, the swamps, all that stuff.
Because we've kind of been in most of those.
Yeah, I've being in a place where being outdoors is something that's commonplace, it's not necessarily something that we needed. But this is, because, again, we're not spelunkers.
Right.
Right.
I wasn't too thrilled about they've got movement rules for underground play. We don't focus a lot on movement rules.
No.
But they do have some interesting subjects here about how to monitor holding a character's breath, or a character hold their breath. There's some information about swimming, which I really liked. I thought swimming underwater and being encumbered when you're doing it, I thought that was really good.
Yes.
So just a lot of different modifiers for climbing, which again, I thought were actually quite good.
Yeah, a lot of rules necessarily that we, again, wouldn't absolutely use. A lot of this stuff is just kind of, figured out in the moment. But for those of you who are more maybe rule intensive with some of this stuff.
Kind of more of an engineer type attitude toward or approach toward the game.
Billy. There's a lot of different things in here that you could use. If it's really any situation underground you could run into, they have a set of rules. They have a table in here for you to roll it
So
on.
you've got things for broad jumping. You've got things for throwing basically lassos to try and rope something so that you can use a rope to cross a chasm. They specifically mentioned that, crossing a chasm on a rope.
Yeah. Jumping modifiers, standing broad jump, running broad jump, all kinds of, yeah.
Crossing with a grappling hook, things like that.
Which I've never done in real life or in D&D, but I would like to do both at some point. They have rules on bridges!
Which are impromptu bridges.
And regular bridges,
Yes.
permanent bridges. Which, not something I've ever thought about, but I like the impromptu bridge. They just talk about having, 2 ropes, one to stand on and one that you hold as you go across something.
Using logs,
Yeah.
things like that.
Which-
They have some extended rules for following. Forget that. For extended rules for
Falling.
which is okay. I mean, I didn't think that there was really one necessary, but the fact that they put it in, and yes, they have something on.
That's right, spelunking, which is one of my all-time favorite words.
It's a great word.
I have
It is
to be
a
honest
great
with you.
word,
And
but-
this is almost like me being on a podcast. This is a podcast discussion.
Easy for you to
wish
say.
that I could be a spelunker, but I couldn't do it. I know that I'd never be able to do that.
We went to a cave in South Dakota when you were little.
When I was a young little lad. That picture's up here somewhere.
It is.
Yeah.
It's up. That's the
If
one.
we
that's-
find it, it'll
yeah.
be up here. Bam!
Right.
There's me as a child.
Yes. But when we were on that tour, they talked about another tour that you could take, which was the spelunking tour.
I remember that. Yep.
Because it scared you as much as it scared me.
Scared the heck out of
And
me.
you had to be comfortable climbing through a space that was about this big.
They had like a little cement box
Yes.
almost that you could practice going through.
And if you
it's
felt okay doing that, you could go on the spelunking tour. There was no way in creation that I would have ever done that.
absolutely not. I don't know how they'd get the insurance to do that.
But we digress.
We digress. Spelunking, lots of stuff for that. But this is one of the things that I really do find interesting. I love in the DM's guide the rules that are about construction, building castles, just building buildings, towns, everything like that. They have all the rules for construction. They have similar things throughout this for excavation of different areas, whether it's, rubble, solid barriers, anything like that. And they
How
really
long it
go
might take
through.
you. Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of rules like that. But then later on, we'll talk about this in a minute, rules for mining as well. So they have actual, again, 102d10 die tables for what you'd be digging through, what you're going to find, all that good stuff. And I think that's really cool. Wait.
Now, yeah, these were good. They did have a lot of proficiencies. They had a lot of new proficiencies that they were working in. We don't use proficiencies.
Well,
We do.
rarely do.
We do,
sometimes.
but we don't, and we don't put as much emphasis on them as
No.
you would in this situation. But that doesn't mean they aren't good. They just don't fit our style of play.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I really liked in this non-weapon proficiencies, it was for the craftsman. This was for an armorer. And if the proficiency check indicates a failure, but is within 4 of the amount needed for success, the armorer has created usable but flawed armor. Such armor functions as one armor class worse than usual, although it looks like the armor it was intended to be. Only a character with armorer proficiency can detect the flaws, and this requires careful and detailed inspection. But if you have your armor made, or you make your armor and you don't make your proficiency, on a 19 or 20, your armor can be damaged and it can really cause you a lot of problems. And I thought that was a really cool
I think
addition.
that's an interesting little bit of reality sprinkled into things.
And I'm not
Because
saying that
always
this is
gonna go
brand
perfectly.
new, but the fact that it's brought up here in this book, which I really like.
Yeah. Now they also have a whole section entitled
This is
"The
cool.
Underground Environment," which is really one of the coolest parts of this book. They talk about things: air supply, duration of air, fire, smoke, poisonous and noxious gases,
And how this affects oxygen. Now
Exactly.
that's really what it boils down to is, do you have enough oxygen to make it through your underground environment?
Absolutely,
Which is really cool.
which is not something that I don't think we've ever discussed necessarily.
I have never been concerned about smoke or fire taking away the oxygen. I've always just assumed kind of gone on by, yeah, there's going to be plenty of oxygen wherever you are. No, not anymore. Not after reading this book.
Yeah, thanks, guys. The importance of ventilation, odor detection, things like that. Having, a canary in coal mines,
There you
things
go.
like
There
that.
you
But yeah, then it moves on to cave-ins, causes of cave-ins, all these different things.
And that's something that I've never been really concerned with either.
But now I will be very concerned.
Yes,
about
you
it
will.
because it's planted
They
seed in
have
his
they even
head.
they even have tables about the random occurrences of cave-ins. Now, I've had cave-ins happen occasionally just because as the DM I thought it was something that needed to happen because characters were being a little rambunctious. I love the random occurrence of cave-in table. You will, though, because you'll think it's so cool that you'll want
Because you're such a genius for using this.
We'll see, yeah. But anyway, I like that particular part of it. They go into hypothermia.
They do. Hypothermia, magnetic effects of lodestone as well, which I thought was very, very interesting. But I like the hypothermia as being something because, again...
Well, and I think that's mentioned in the Wilderness Survival Guide.
It is. I think,
but
yeah.
I just like it from the fact that you can get hypothermia underground. It's something that you can easily do.
Because if you never have been in a significantly underground, like a deep underground environment, it does get colder the further underneath the earth you go.
And it's tough to warm up.
It sure is, because it stays cold down there. There's nothing to warm it up. But, yeah, I think that's very interesting. And I love how it says optional rule next to hypothermia, which is, I think all of these should be maybe treated like that, but that especially is interesting.
Well, and for us, they would be.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is the stuff that I really enjoyed. Talking about different minds, which, from some of the conversations we may have had, you may have picked up on the fact that we kind of like playing Dungeons & Dragons and having our characters do things that aren't necessarily the stereotype of what characters would do. We like opening businesses. Like one of my characters ran a tavern for years and years and years, and that was one of the main things that he did. That was a big part of who that character was. And kind of that aspect of thing can be really exciting if you're creative with it and you're willing to run down that storyline that isn't necessarily slaying dragons and, saving damsels in distress.
And as a DM, I love it when characters go down those ways because they give me the opportunity to come up with really interesting events that could stem from running a tavern.
Absolutely.
Or, in this case, running a mine. There's no ends of creative things you can do aside from killing the dragon. There are no ends of interesting things you can do out of these more mundane
mundane, but they won't end up being mundane necessarily.
No, they won't.
Yeah, if your DM is interested in that.
Best adventure I ever played.
I know what you're about to say.
I was a tavern owner. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Didn't you have to go steal plates from somebody?
Yeah, we were too poor, and so they didn't have any left. And what few there were got damaged when we took it over from. There were some people who were some slavers. We didn't like that, so we went and we took the tavern from them, killed them. But during the battle, all of the crockery and plates and dishes and such got damaged, so we had to go steal them from other places. Long story.
Fun little adventure. But yeah, in this they go all through where to mine, types of mines, excavating a tunnel mine. Then they go through mining rates. With that is talked about in the DM's guide, I believe. Yeah, there is the rates for like giants versus
stone giants,
gnolls, whatever it is. Yeah. But then they've got, you can roll the mineral vein direction, vein path alterations going through that, talking about shoring up tunnels. But then it goes through these long lists of the products that come out of a mine, what you're actually mining for. You can go through tin, copper, lead, iron, silver, gold, platinum, mithril, gemstones. But then from that, under mithril, gemstones, you go through what actually those are, what the quality of it is.
Right, so if you roll a double out on your mining product for gemstones, there's a secondary table that you go in and you find out if it's diamonds or rubies or opals or aquamarine or garnet or whatever.
Chances are low it's going to be diamonds, but it's still a possibility.
Still, it's cool.
Yeah, which would be pretty neat if you just found a diamond mine. But then there's ore quality, gemstone quality, but yeah, then a bunch of other things as well. Calculating the value of a placer mine, smelting ore, finishing stones, which is something you wouldn't necessarily think about. You have to have people to cut those stones and get them to look good. But then I just love all of that because again, like you said, the more mundane, stereotypically ideas of things you could do in D&D, there's ways that you can make that creative and exciting, and they've laid out all the rules for you to be able to do.
And one of the things about this book, I think it's actually really well laid out. Mm-hmm. I think that there was real time and effort spent in making this into a very nicely flowing read.
Absolutely.
And it's something that, again, we probably won't use most of these bits of information in our own campaigns, but it was great fun just to read the book because, as you said at the beginning, it's a real idea generator.
Yeah, and this,
as you go through,
gave me the idea. One of my characters is about to start a trading company, and now I want to have him start a mine as well to trade things with, because it's it gives me ideas on what I want to do as a player as well.
And him as a player doing that, I also want to start looking further into cave-ins. So,
yay! But then towards the end, after you.
Okay. Here's where I drew a couple of lines in the sand because this was the new equipment section. And I have no problem with people having new equipment. I was a bit taken aback by some of the costs of the equipment. There was one thing in here, it was a pickaxe. And the claim here is that the pickaxe was 20 gold pieces. And as I recall, a longsword is 15, and the AD&D
I believe
players
that
it was
it's
15 or maybe 30, one or the other.
I think it's 15 or 20 for a longsword. It's not a lot.
But it doesn't make a pickaxe worth 20 gold pieces. And they have a shovel listed as 10 gold pieces. I'm kind of hoping that those are actually typos, and they should have been silver pieces as opposed to gold pieces.
But I will say,
regardless,
there's not necessarily a lot of consistency between the economy that's been set up between these books. I think that the kind of overall value of gold pieces, or the perception of that, changed a little bit as years went by.
I think you're right.
But even so...
Well, one last one, though. Crampons, which are simply forged pieces of metal that you would attach to your feet or whatever. 40 gold pieces for those? No. Not in my campaign.
Just sharp, they're just sharp little things that you can dig into rock a little bit more with. Basically.
Or ice or
whatever maybe.
Anyway.
But I do like having those other items, new things you can buy that are just laid out, set in stone, as it were, so that you can use those in your...
They have a thing in here about improving play, fighting effectively, speeding play, creative, underground spell use. They're great reads, again, for giving you ideas or making you consider things that you might want to work into your own rule system, but really good ideas. Languages, mapping techniques. I actually really liked the mapping techniques.
Yes, always make your characters buy mapping materials, because then if they forget, it's funny for you.
Well, it is for me.
Yeah. Not for the characters. That's why I am very conscious. Like, oh no, I need some parchment, need some quills.
He actually has not done that. He's left 30 miles from town and suddenly went, wait a minute, do I need anything to make a map with? Well, yeah, unless you want to draw it in blood.
Well, that's why I turned around and went back again.
Anyway, but one of the interesting things about this mapping techniques was, are you going to have your characters sit down and take the time to do a perfect map? Or are they going to be using a piece of charcoal and drawing it out on a scrap of paper just so that... And I have to say that it's probably going to be the charcoal scrap of paper. And I used to do that. And it used to make players really, really mad because I actually made them burn a piece of wood down to charcoal. And then they got a crumbled up piece of paper that they could draw their maps on.
I can guess which ones of them thought it was cool and which ones of them hated it.
I'll bet you could.
I'm not going to say who, but I know which of you didn't like it.
But I loved it. To me, it was a really interesting, and there were some people who thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, it gives you different ways to look at making maps of the Underdark or dungeons in particular. Then it moves on to, they have an entire section here about underground ecology.
I mean, yeah, we can...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. No, continue, sorry.
They have an entire section here about underground ecology, which, again, I really like. I'm really heavily into ecology of dungeons, ecology of overland waterways, or ecology of forests. To me, that's a really important part of building a world for people to explore, because there has to be rhyme and reason in the natural world in order for people to make good decisions. Mm-hmm. So to me, the fact that they have touched on the ecology of underground, I think that's a really neat thing. But then they've also just gone and created an entire underground environment that you can pick up and drop straight into your campaign.
The Underdark, essentially. If
you so desire. And it's not something that I would do, but I would take elements of this and put it into my campaign.
Yeah, kind of like the Manual of the Plains video, if you guys watched that. It's got a lot of good ideas for some general construction of how things should work, and then you can, edit that later on however you want to. Because, going through, they talked about the underground geography, different ways that it's set up, the theories of the nature of the underground, which I actually thought was kind of funny. Yeah, going through nobody knows what it actually looks like and what the construction is, so you can build off of that.
What do they have theories on the nature of the underground? The hollow earth theory, the Swiss cheese theory, the isolated pockets theory, and the partial connection theory.
That's creativity with a capital C. Good work to...
Good stuff. David Niles.
David Niles, well done. But I also like this, the cultures of the Underdark. They go through Dro, Kuotoa.
Quotoa. That's the way I've always said it.
No. Dwergar, Mind Flayers, Aboleth, Darrow, and Cloakers. They go through 6, 7 of these decently popular monsters that you'll find in the various monster manual, fiend folio, all those things. But they kind of enumerate, they expand a little bit more on what they do, what their role is within these cultural systems, and I think that's really cool, just again, to kind of lay out that groundwork. But yeah, like you said, then they just go through all these different kinds of areas you could find and kind of start to build a world for you if you're not super inclined to build your own world.
And they have a map of it. I will throw that up on the screen. That's stolen from Frank Frazetta.
I was going to ask if that was Frank Frazetta. It kind of looks like.
I'll throw this up so you can say, yeah, that's from Frank Frazetta. But they call it the Lands of Deep Earth, and they have a map in here, a series of maps with a key, and then they go through and they discuss all of the different underground environments on the map, so that you can have an idea of how you might want to thread your Underdark together.
It's like the sample dungeon in the DM's guide. Almost.
Exactly.
It's the same kind of thing.
That's exactly what it is. But that takes up actually quite a few pages of the book itself. So, for example, number 11, the key number 11 on the map is Outpost of the Illithids. 12 is the Combat Zone. 15 is the Upper Lake of Deep Earth. 17 is the Lower Lake of Deep Earth. 20 is the Lava Caves. 23 is the Lower Grand Canyon of Deep Earth. But anyway, they do a really good job. They go into nice detail about this Underdark that they have created without making it kind of overwhelming and making it so much that you're thinking, no, I don't want to have anything to do with this. It's just, to me, it's more, here are suggestions for what you can do.
Yeah, and ever since I got this, I've really loved this idea of having an interconnected underground environment where everything is kind of tied in together, where you can either travel overground, or if you want to, you can travel underground. That's just a whole new realm of adventure that you can go through and do things in. It's going to just expand your opportunities that much more.
And the nice thing about doing that is that you can also, when you have a larger underground setting, which I do in certain areas of my campaign, it doesn't go everywhere, but I do have it in certain areas. But it's right next door to areas that are already very well developed, so it's easier to do something underneath something that's already done, if that makes any sense, rather than expanding outward as you would on the surface of the Earth, or the surface of your planet, and having to push things out further. You just go like this. It's much easier. At least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else on this? I mean,
we really enjoyed this book.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
It's a fun read. There's a lot of really cool things in here. This is one of those that we definitely recommend if you guys haven't found this one yet, and you're looking for some of those rarer books to add to your collection.
Well, and they've also got some good things here, just about storyline, plot and counterplot, the story structure of your adventure, multiple storylines, story elements, all the different things that you might want to consider putting into the way you develop your campaign, or the way you develop a scenario.
Yeah.
So anyway, that to me kind of sums this up. Right, I've got one tag here on the very back. Let's see what it is. Oh, there are a lot of compiled. The tables from throughout the book are compiled here at the back, making it much easier to find them if you need to. One of the ones I really liked is Table 20, Unsteady NPC Reactions. So let's see what it actually says there. 1 to 20, character runs screaming toward the surface to the limits of his endurance. This is all for underground adventures, obviously. 21 to 55, character attacks nearby PC. 56 to 85, character attempts to sneak away quietly as soon as possible. And 86 to 100, character freezes in place, not reacting or moving. So some sort of a bad situation in your Underdark, you've got a table to make sure that you know how your NPCs are going to react.
Or if you have a boat in the Underdark, you can figure that out as well. There's all kinds of fun stuff back here. But Dungeoneer's Survival Guide, we strongly recommend. This is one of our favorite orange spine.
The orange spine.
The orange spine books. This is one of our top ones that we like now at the very least. So yeah, if you can find a copy, definitely pick it up. It's worth the money. This one is.
I do not know if this one is available on DriveThruRPG as a PDF. DriveThruRPG is a PDF.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's available, but you might check there to see if it has been turned into a PDF that you can purchase. But if you do, I would say pick it up. It's just got some good stuff to maybe help you along on some of your adventures.
Yeah, if you've got the basic books, get this one as one of your expansion ones. But that's really all we have to say.
Let us know if you use the Dungeoneer's Survival Guide, or if you don't like it. You can also let us know about that.
Yeah.
Or if you know of something similar, let us know.
A few housekeeping things to finish things off with. We have
yes.
added a shop section to the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
We're very, very
yes.
proud of that. For those of you who
Yes.
saw the Instagram post about it, if you go on the actual the channel itself, you can find the shop.
The YouTube channel itself.
YouTube channel itself, you can find the shop section. It's next to the about, the videos, the uploads, all those different tabs up at the top. You can click
What
the
is it?
shop.
Does it say store or shopping or
Shopping
I think it says
or
shopping.
store. I'm not sure. If we're wrong,
You'll
it'll
see
say
it.
it says this.
Yeah, we'll put
here.
it right here.
Yeah. But yeah, go check that out. It's got all of our merchandise. There's been a lot of stuff that we've kind of added into the spread shop, the store, but you can access it all straight from there.
So take a look. It helps us buy the stuff we need for the channel.
Absolutely. So check that out. Follow all of our social media accounts. Basically, just Instagram's the big one that we use for the most part. Facebook as well. So if you want to go take a look at those,
Yep.
and tell your friends, check out all the links below.
Yes.
And let us know what you think. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Alex.
I'm Jim.
Keep your sword arm free.
Bye bye.
We did that backwards.
It's all right.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.